Where's my guy? Ugh. 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 Wow, how did I do this, Shane?
I have no clue.
I don't either. You should have come up and you're not here.
Nobody's on it. Just says showing the kidney story 30-second timer. Did you try the double window? There we go.
Okay. There we are. How you doing, Shane?
Good, man. How are you?
Okay. Let me get a little bit of an introduction going. Welcome, everyone. Our guest tonight is Shane Blanchard. This is Shane's second appearance on Kidney Stories 2 broadcast, and we are very, very pleased to announce that despite overwhelming odds, Shane has received his third kidney transplant. Way to go, Shane. Our friend Shane was born with a congenital disorder called Eagle-Barrett syndrome or prune belly disease, meaning he was born without any abdominal muscles, an oversized bladder, an uneven-sized kidneys, and a ureter issue, one of the many complications of Eagle-Barrett syndrome leading to chronic kidney failure. As an infant, Shane had many surgeries, including the reconstruction of his urinary tract. Finally, at the age of 21, Shane's kidneys did fail. He received a kidney transplant from his brother Todd at the age of 22 in September of 1997 that lasted 25 and a half years. That kidney eventually failed, and Shane needed a second transplant. His lifelong friend Brad Henderson donated a kidney to Shane on November 6, 2019. Unfortunately, complications arose during the surgery, and the kidney was unable to be saved, lasting only 13 days. Following the surgery, Shane had 2 stent placements, 7 blood transfusions from bleeding out during recovery. 2 times he had a hematoma removed and a very serious bacteria infection in his blood. He was then hospitalized for 6 months with multiple hospitalizations and was in nursing home for 1.5 months. This included rehabilitation time to relearn how to walk and talk. After his recovery, Shane started to look for another kidney donor. He had challenges during this. Because of his numerous blood transfusions, he had built up immunities and an antibody at a 99/100 level, meaning only 1% of the population would be a match. He could not accept a kidney from a deceased donor. He needed a living donor or someone to go through the kidney exchange program or a donor swap for him. He went through many challenges in trying to attempt to find a new kidney while he continued on dialysis. One of those attempts included working with the National Kidney Registry to find a match due to his high antibodies. In November of 2021, Shane caught a break. His cousin, Jeremy Hauser, made a donation on Shane's behalf to someone else under the NKR's Paired Exchange Voucher Program. Shane was then moved to the top of the kidney transplant list, and the next matching kidney would be his. Only 7 days later, he received a kidney that was almost a perfect match. Shane left a message for everyone who helped him make a difference. Quote, even someone sharing a post or sharing my need of an advertisement or commenting and those type of things to bring attention to the stuff out there. All of those people played a part in spreading the word and helping me get a donor. I just can't thank everybody enough for what they did for me. Shane has become an advocate for other kidney patients. He started 2 pages on Facebook, Midwest Kidney Warriors and Transplant Warriors. The links to that are in the comments to this broadcast, as well as many of the news stories and other broadcasts that Shane's done. He now belongs to many kidney advocacy groups and regularly visits his old dialysis center as a mentor and advisor for all the patients and staff. Please give a warm welcome to the great Shane Blanchard. How you doing tonight, Shane?
Good, man. Good. I appreciate you having me on again.
All right. So I got to change banners here if I can. Hang on, Shane. There we go. All right. So did I state everything correctly in the introduction? Did I get it half right?
You did it better than I could have even explained it.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? What's your education and your current employment?
Sure. So I grew up in Iowa. Oskaloosa, Iowa is where I was born and raised, and I've lived here most of my life. I did move away for about 16, 17 years, and I lived in a town called Waukee, Iowa, and absolutely love the city. I was very involved on city council there and some other nonprofit organizations, and absolutely loved my time there. But when I got found out I was back in stage 3 kidney failure, that's when I sold my townhome and knew that I probably needed to move back to my hometown of Oskaloosa because I'm single, and sometimes things can get difficult. So I thought I was going to rely on family at that time. So I moved back to my hometown. I've been here now for about 5 years, and really doing good. I went to college at through Buena Vista University and Indian Hills Community, where I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, political science. Never used that degree. I actually did some work with the police department in Cedar Rapids, and I went to a domestic dispute and was holding down a gentleman that was beating his wife, and the wife got mad about it, kicked me in the gut. I had stomach muscles because of Eagle-Barrett syndrome, so I had some internal bleeding and decided law enforcement's probably not going to be good for me. And then I found a job selling cars, and really fell in love with that. And about 3 months later, they promoted me up into the finance position in 1997, and I've been doing it ever since. So it's been, 23, 24, 25 years, something like that. I've been in the car business. So now in my hometown of Oskaloosa, I work for Craig Ford, Craig Chevrolet, and Pella Motors, where we have 3 dealerships. I'm a sales and finance manager at all 3 of those stores, and absolutely love what I do. What's nice is that some of the managers within these stores are people that I've hired and trained, and I get a lot of joy out of seeing the growth out of people that are now leaders within the dealerships that I brought in as salespeople, and now here they are running the place. And it's not all on me. I mean, Ross Kenobi's the owner. He's bought into the store, and him and I together, we've been able to put together a really good team, I guess you could say. So that's me in a nutshell, man.
Excellent, excellent. Let's talk kidney. Talk to us about your kidney issues from the time you were born until your kidneys failed.
Yeah, so upon birth, being born with Eagle-Barrett syndrome, there's a lack of abdominal muscles, but then even more so, there's urinary tract issues, with the bladder and kidneys not being the same size, the ureters that the urine goes through, sometimes those might not be connected, or there might be a kink in that line and it's not working properly. So when I was an infant, I had to have reconstruction on my urinary tract, where they put in a new bladder, and then they ran lines from both my kidneys down to my bladder. But until I was 3 years old, I had nephrostomies in my back. So I had tubes going straight into my kidneys through my back. And I had that for the first 3 years of my life. I don't remember any of it. I just know it from my parents telling me. I knew kidney disease was going to be something in my future, just never knew when. But when I was 21 years old, that's when I had my first bout with kidney failure that was caused from the Eagle-Barrett syndrome. And I did dialysis only about 4 months at that time because my brother donated. He was a 6 antigen match, which is great. There wasn't a lot of education or internet or anything where you can learn stuff like today to know how to take care of a kidney properly. So even though my brother's kidney lasted me 24 years, I probably could have got more out of it had I known about eating healthy and doing things right. I just didn't have that education, unfortunately, and that kidney ended up failing on me back in 2018. And then, like Jim had said, my best friend had donated a kidney in 2019, November of 2019, and unfortunately, that kidney ended up failing after about 13 days and had to be removed. And there was a lot of issues that followed that, like Jim was saying. And so then it was a whole year before I could even get listed again, because I had a lot of recovery from reconstruction. You know, they had to put a new artery in my stomach where that kidney was hooked up to. And they had done, I think there was about 14, 15 surgeries I had on my abdominal area at the time. So there's a lot of scar tissue, things that would have to be dealt with. They wanted all that to heal up before they could even look at doing another transplant. So it took a little while before I could get back on the list, but I just kept doing my dialysis daily. I kept forcing myself to get that 30 minutes in a day of walk and cardio, and made sure I was eating right, keeping my fluids under 32 ounces, because, you know, I wanted things to do in this life, you know, to help people and to bless people, not only in my career, but through that kidney disease. I found advocates like Jim and like Jonathan Traylor and people out there that are doing these types of shows and helping people. And it gave me a new lease on life. I knew that I wasn't going to live my life for me. I knew I was going to live it to help other kidney warriors. And so that gave me a lot of motivation to get myself back to where I needed to be. And so, and now here I am, transplanted 2 months ago, and I have my own show, I have my own organization, and I'm able to collaborate with people like Jim and people with Kidney Solutions, and hopefully become a mentor through Kidney Solutions to help patients out. And I'm telling you, man, God's just blessed me so much. I don't look at this disease as a downfall whatsoever. I look at it as a blessing, because it has prepared me to help out so many other people in this world that need it, that struggle with kidney disease. So that's that story there, man.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about Guillain-Barré syndrome. What are the challenges that you faced as a result of being born with this condition?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, because a lot of people always ask me, have an Guillain-Barré syndrome. And just to explain what Guillain-Barré syndrome is, if you think of a baby eagle, how it's born as a baby, it's really, really skinny and it has that big gut. That's exactly why they come up with the name Guillain-Barré syndrome, or prune belly syndrome, because it looks like a prune that's all wilted up and everything. So if you Google pictures of it, that's exactly what it looks like, just to kind of give you where that name come from. But I guess I've never looked at this as being something that's ever held me down, because I've always been born with it. I've always persevered. I played football, even though I had to wear rib pads, not around my ribs. I wore them around my stomach. I played baseball. I played tennis. I played track. Wrestling was my favorite sport. I've been wrestled since I was 9 years old, all the way until I was like 20 years old. So it never held me back. The only thing that was negative is if I got put on my back. So the whole key to wrestling, stay off your back. And as long as I stayed off my back, I didn't have to worry about it. But it's never been a challenge for me. I've never looked at it as a challenge. It is a disability. I've never looked at it as a disability, and I don't think it is a disability whatsoever. It's just something that the Lord had given me, and something that has helped me become a really good person and to live with, I guess.
I read somewhere, Shane, that you've had something like 50 operations in your lifetime. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, it's above 60 plus now because of what's happened over the last few years. But, you know, several surgeries with reconstruction on the urinary tract. Another thing with Guillain-Barré syndrome is undescended testicles. So my testicles would go up inside of would leave the sac and go back up. So they would have to pull them down. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. When I was in 5th grade, what am I, 10 years old at that time? I had to have a surgery because they went back up again. And there was a hook with rubber bands. I had a hook in my leg and a hook on the bottom of my scrotum, and there was a rubber band that would be holding them. My mom used to come into my room and tease me about snapping those rubber bands if I didn't behave, because I would always tease the nurses and the doctors. So she would always tease me that she was going to snap me with a rubber band. But that was a lot of the surgeries was just, and a lot of exploratory, because, back in the 70s, early 70s, this was something new. I never knew of anybody else with Eagle-Barrett syndrome. Now that there's Facebook, I mean, heck, I'm a part of a social media group where there's a few thousand people on there, and it's just, to me, it's cool, man. I'm seeing people with the same thing as me, but growing up, we didn't know anybody else, and at the hospital here, it was very rare and not much known about it. So my stomach is scarred to heck, man, from all those operations. And from the kidney operations, the testicles, the urinary tract. I've had some bowel stuff. I had a couple things, with knees, sports injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, it's above 60 now. So.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about the circumstances that led up to the first transplant. What was going on there that led you to seek a kidney transplant?
Well, the interesting thing is back then, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'd gone to about 4 or 5 different doctors, and they just diagnosed me with having a flu and a common cold. But I was having bloody noses. I was having really bad cramping. I wasn't sleeping very good at night, and I was gaining weight, and my fingers were swollen and really hard to move around. And it was finally when I went to my family doctor. She took my labs, and get this, my creatinine was a 13.2. That was my creatinine at 21 years old. That's how bad I was. So they said that I had been in kidney failure for years and never known it, because I was in good shape. I was still wrestling. I was working at a factory where I build scaffold 100 feet up in the air. So yeah, I never knew it. But what led it to that was just going to this family doctor here in my hometown, and she pulled my labs, and my creatinine was sky high. I immediately had to go to Iowa City 2 days later, and they put me in the hospital and had me hooked up and going. Told me I had a year to live if I didn't get a kidney or if I didn't get treatment, which scared the hell out of me, being told something like that. So yeah, that was a mess.
Okay. After that point in time, did you seek some form of treatment?
I did. Yeah, I started on hemodialysis right away. They put a fistula in my arm, and I had to build it up. But they put a thing in my chest that I did, for about 2 or 3 weeks, and that's how I was doing my dialysis until my fistula got pumped up in my bicep, and then I started doing regular dialysis through my bicep. And back then, we didn't have facilities like DaVita and Fresenius that are throughout towns. We only had one place that you could go. That was either Des Moines, Iowa, which was a little over an hour away, or you could go to Iowa City, Iowa, which was an hour and a half away. So I would have to drive an hour and a half on Tuesday. Back then I did Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I would drive an hour and a half to do dialysis for 4 hours and then drive an hour and a half back. And so it was either, a parent or a girlfriend that was taking me back then at the time. So yeah, it was crazy.
Okay. What happened with the first kidney transplant? How did that come about? Where were you transplanted? What day? All that kind of happy stuff.
Sure. So that first transplant, it happened September 25th of 1997. I called my brother from the hotel that night when they told me I had kidney failure, and he was living in Des Moines, Iowa. He was a manager of the Olive Garden at the time. And I told him, I said, I've got to find someone to give me a kidney, or they said I could get one from a deceased. And my brother right away said, no, man. He goes, you can have my kidney. He goes, what do I got to do? I can come down there tomorrow. And so right away he was ready to go. So he got into Iowa City like a week later, and they started the testing process, which took about 4 months to go through all the testing for him. I don't know. Today it seems like it's a lot faster than what it used to be. Because back then it took a long time. He had to go through several different things for testing, but and they cut him from his belly button to his spinal cord when they took his kidney out. Today they only do it with 3 little holes, and the person's recovered in or not recovered, but they get out in 2 days or 3 days. He was in there a week and a half, and he was worse than I was back then. I was up walking around the next day ready to go, and he was laying in bed, and he was just excruciating pain. It was a lot worse for him back then. So.
Okay. Where did this transplant take place, Shane?
Yeah, this was at University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics in Iowa City is where I had that transplant.
Okay, and I understand that that kidney lasted you 25 and a half years or so. Is that correct?
24 years. 24 years it lasted. So yeah, it lasted a long time. I think just with I wasn't the most healthiest person. I didn't realize it, but I was 225 pounds. I was pretty heavy. I didn't eat right. I didn't exercise right. I didn't diet at all. And then I think on top of that, with the amount of Prograf I was taking, it scarred it up and damaged it over time. I think I could have lasted the rest of my life if I would have done things wrong, the right way. So I completely blame myself on it.
Tell us a little bit about the complications, the challenges that took place after that first kidney transplant.
I didn't realize I was in kidney failure. I was just doing my regular follow-up treatments, and my creatinine with my brother's kidney was always a 1.7 to 2.2, but it climbed above a 3. And that's when they said, maybe we need to take you off tacrolimus and put you on sirolimus. It's not going to be as bad on your kidney. So they switched me up on sirolimus. And at this time, I think I was stage 3 kidney disease. And this was about 2015. But I started learning and reading on kidney health and kidney diets and how you can, get more out of a kidney and stay away from red meats, high potassiums, things like that can help your kidney. Salt is another thing that's not so great. So I started really living a kidney healthy lifestyle, and that got me 3 more years before I got to where I needed to go on dialysis. I wish I would have known that you can get a living transplant before you even go on dialysis. But once again, I was dumb to the world and I didn't even know. And nobody ever talked to me. I just told you're stage 3. You need to do what you can do to get the most out of this kidney. If they would have told me, hey, you need to start looking for a donor, because kidneys don't go back. They only stay where they're at, or they get worse, And if I could have found someone that was going to give me a kidney, I could have had that person on hold until that time came, and I would have never had to have been on dialysis. That was just an unfortunate circumstance again.
Okay, never got to talk about the preemptive transplant then.
Never even knew about it. Never knew it was an option. And this is 2018. Never knew it was an option. So I was really dumb when it came to kidney stuff, man. before you guys.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about the circumstances that led up to the second kidney transplant on November 6, 2019. What happened there?
So I'd been doing peritoneal dialysis for almost a year, and I was looking for kidney donors, and again, I didn't have advocates or anything like that, but my best friend had come forward, and we've been friends since we were 14 years of age, and he's a pastor, and he said he felt led to give me one of his kidneys, and he went in and got tested, and lo and behold, we were a match. And my panel-reactive antibody was not very high whatsoever. And we were the same blood type and everything too, which me being AB positive, I matched with everybody, but he's also an AB positive. So we matched up really good. Unfortunately, when they did the transplant, when they connected the kidney to the artery, there's a certain stitching method, and this was found out during the investigation, but there's a certain stitching method that they're supposed to use, and that was not used, and that's why it was leaking out, and why I ended up with the hematoma, and then why the kidney ended up backing up and failing. So they took when they put the kidney in, the next night they had to go in and they actually unhooked the kidney, took it out, and tried to clean it out, and then they put it back in me, and then they connected everything again. It's just like having another transplant all over again. They had to cut me through the same hole or the same scar, and they put that kidney back in there, and it still wasn't working. The same thing ended up happening where the blood had clotted up inside of there, so they unhooked it again and they removed it, and this time they put it on a pump machine and they did some other things to it, and then they put it right back in me, and again they cut me open in the exact same spot, and when it got hooked up, it ended up leaking because the artery was damaged, and that's when I ended up with a lot of blood in my stomach, and it was very, very painful. I didn't realize what was going on. I was sleeping that night in my recliner at home to be comfortable, excuse me. And I had bled out all night long. And I've got a picture of the blood all over the floor. It's very disgusting, but I had bled out of my JP drain not the JP drain itself, but the hole that the JP drain goes into. I had bled out that night all over the floor. And when I had got up, I had fallen over on the floor because I was so weak and I was really sweaty and lethargic, and my parents had called an ambulance. And so I had got taken to the hospital. And that's when they started doing blood transfusions. And then they did some scans and seen that I had a hematoma in my stomach from the leakage. And so they went in and they washed that out. They put in a stent, hoping the stent would fix the problem. And then I was in the hospital about a week, and then I was sent home. And I was at the doctor appointment one day, and they were going to take the JP drain out, and I didn't feel comfortable because it was still filling up every so often. And I asked him if we could just wait another week or so, because I didn't feel comfortable. And I was at dialysis, and same thing happened. I started leaking out of the side of me on my dialysis chair, and then I was getting my JP drain, and they gave me one of those big containers that you use for urine. And I was sitting there and I was dumping my JP drain, emptying it, and then it would fill up, and then I would dump it in there, and then it would fill, and I would dump it in there. And I mean, there was 2 liters in there, and I had to dump that out. And then the nurse came back again, and I did another 2 liters, and she called an ambulance, and an ambulance took me right to Des Moines. And there was a hematoma that time too. That was the worst pain I'd ever felt in my life. I was laying in the hospital. I remember screaming and hollering, put me to sleep, give me pain medicine, do something. Because it was painful, and my dad was right next to me the whole time. I thought I was going to die because I could hardly stay awake. It was just a bad situation. And they did the same thing again. They went and washed it out, and then they said, well, the stent didn't work. We have to replace another stent. And so that's when they replaced the stent again, and same thing happened. But I didn't bleed out this time. This time I was just having really bad abdominal pain, and I went to them, and that's when they looked and said, okay, you've got, okay, it's leaking again. And so they did some looking at the artery, and they said that artery is damaged. They said there's only 2 things we can do. They said we can replace the artery, or we have to remove your leg. And the doctor that was in Des Moines, who was the vascular surgeon, didn't feel comfortable enough to remove that artery. And to replace it, he said, we need to send you to a specialist. And he said, you can either go to Mayo in Iowa City, or you can go to University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics and see the vascular surgeons there. And so since I'd been to Iowa City and I'd had all my previous surgeries, that's why I chose them. And so at 3 a.m, the ambulance took me from Des Moines to Iowa City Hospital. And that's where the whole thing began. And then come to find out that I had a bacteria infection, because they did these blood culture things in these little things that look like liquor bottles. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But that's found out I had a bacteria infection because I couldn't control my bowels. And I could not control my bowels for almost a week. So I was messing my bed. I was messing my, it was horrible. And so after they started me on these IV drugs for the bacteria infection, that's when they went in and they washed out the hematoma for the 3rd time. And then that's when Dr. Axelrod, who's the head of transplant, and him and Dr. Katz, who leads up the vascular surgeon team, they all got together, I guess, and it came up with a plan on how to fix this artery. And so what they decided to do was go in and remove the artery, and they were going to run a new one from one side of my body to the other, so that way it could hook up and get blood to my leg. And then it also kind of supports some other artery or some other veins and stuff on the left side of the body. So they said it was a 50-50 if I'd come out of it alive or not. And again, they told me that, 3 things are going to happen when you wake up. I said, number 1, you're gonna wake up and you're not gonna have your left leg; it'll be disconnected from the hip. Number 2, you're gonna wake up and be fine. Or number 3, you're not gonna wake up at all. You're going to pass away. So that's what I was facing with that operation at Iowa City. Thank God, when I woke up, I had a breathing tube in my throat. I remember grabbing this breathing tube and then reaching down, and I felt my leg, and then I was happy and I didn't care, and then I fell back asleep. So it was an emotional time. It was very difficult, but the cool thing is the artery that they put in me was from a transplant patient they had done the day before from a cadaver. And since I was AB positive and I matched anybody, they were able to use this artery from this. I hate saying the word cadaver. From this person that passed away that donated his organs, they were able to use one of his arteries and use that to put into my body and save my leg and save everything. So that was the second surgery. It was a 6-month ordeal. I went in at 235 pounds. By the time I got out of the nursing home, I was 120 pounds, and I had lost a lot of weight. I looked like a mess.
Okay. Were there a number of blood transfusions that took place during all this?
Yeah, because of those hematomas, the leaking, they were just filling me with blood as much as they could. It was in total, it was like 7 pints of blood that I had gotten over time, over that 6-month period. It was more about a 2.5-month period, because of the hematomas that they were putting 7 pints in me. They'd come and put 2 in, and then a week later they'd have to put another 2 in because my hemoglobin was down around a 5 and 6.
Okay.
And
I've heard you talk
of the effects of a blood transfusion either.
Okay. I've heard you talk about having a high PRA, panel reactive antibody rate, as a result of all this. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's all about?
So
what does that mean?
Your panel reactive antibodies go from 0 to 100. Mine was 99.27, so I was way up there, which is, a 1% chance of ever finding a donor. The antibodies are they fight against different things in your system, and they attack anything. So if you get a kidney that doesn't have the same type of antibodies, your body's just going to kill it off because it's prepared to do that. And because of all these different blood transfusions they add a lot of additives to blood and things like that, so that goes into your body. And that's the best way I know how to explain a PRA. You might have a better educated way of explaining it, but that's how I understand it.
Okay. The direct donation from Brad Hutchinson for your second transplant only lasted 13 days. What was the end result of all this?
The end result is that they had to remove it. It had to be completely removed out of my body, which I think is very unfortunate for me and more unfortunate for him.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about what life was like after you came home up to the point of your third kidney transplant.
Sure. So, I was in the hospital, like I said, for 4.5 months, and then the last month and a half or so, I was in a nursing home next to a what do they call it, where people go to die in a nursing home?
Hospice.
Hospice. Yep, I was right there in the hospice area, and I didn't realize it at the time I was in hospice. But I had gotten up from my bed, and I still could hardly walk. I was just learning to walk and talk because it was really hard because of the medication they put you on for the bacteria infection. It kind of takes all that balance and language and stuff away. But I had started getting up from my bed and grabbing onto the wheelchair, and I had started forcing myself to walk. And they had physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy at this nursing home. And I'll tell you, I owe a lot to those people, because there was times I didn't want to do anything. I was almost giving up, and they wouldn't let me. It wasn't until Brad, who gave me the kidney, he came one day and prayed for me, and that turned me completely around. The faith came back to me, and I just started moving. I started eating, forcing food, and getting up and moving around, and that did a lot of good for me, and that helped a lot. So
excellent. Talk to us a little bit about the steps that you took to make your desire known that you wanted a third kidney transplant. How did you get the word out to folks?
Well, I'll tell you, I had, after I got home, I started, at the time I wasn't thinking kidney, I was thinking recovery, because, I had a long way to go to get transplanted. So my goal at that time was to get off of hemodialysis and get back on peritoneal dialysis. Unfortunately, and I'll get into your question too, but when I didn't get my answer about peritoneal, I called Dr. Axelrod at university. I said, hey, is there any way I could ever get back on peritoneal? He goes, yeah, we could do a scope, make sure that the scarring's okay, and you should be able to do peritoneal. So I was happy. But the doctor that was at the dialysis center I was going to, he's not a peritoneal dialysis fan. He likes to keep people in center. And I'll say that he seriously wants to keep people in center, which is horrible. I ended up asking him in November. November of 2018, I asked him about peritoneal dialysis. He said, let's wait till after the holidays. So then in January, I talked to him again about it. And he said, let's wait till we get past, the winter months and stuff. And he was pushing me off. So finally come March, and every time he'd come around, I talked to him about it. He'd just brush it off. So finally come March, I got tired of waiting, and I contacted another dialysis facility that was in Pella, Iowa, because I knew the doctor there, Bucksbaum. He had helped me when I was on peritoneal before I had a relationship. I told him I wanted to transfer back to his clinic and do hemo and possibly go back on PD. And he said, yeah, no problem. He goes, you can always make that request. That's your decision. And so I put that request in to transfer, and I was transferred 2 weeks later. On the third week, I met with Bucksbaum, and he got me an appointment up at University of Iowa to see if I could go through with the peritoneal dialysis. And since I'd been to a year, it's been over a year since all those procedures, because this was in March. They went in, they scoped, they looked at my peritoneum sac, and they said I'm good to go. I can do PD. And for people that want to know what a peritoneum sac is, if you imagine saran wrap and you keep pulling and pulling and pulling, you can pull up that whole saran wrap and you can bunch it up. That's what a peritoneum sac is. It's like saran wrap that's like, say, 100-foot long, that's just all bunched up into a little ball in your stomach. And so when you put fluid in to your stomach for peritoneal dialysis, that fluid just draws all the toxins and the fluid out of your body. And so that's what they had to make sure that was not damaged in that peritoneum sac because of all those surgeries. And it was a month later, I was up and I was getting a PD cath put in me and put back on peritoneal dialysis. And then once I got back on peritoneal dialysis, and then I asked the doctor, now let's talk about a transplant. He said, it's been 18 months. Let's go through the tests and find out. So I went through all the testing. I did find out that I had an issue with my heart. So they went in through my growing area, looked at the heart, and said, you know what, you formed a new artery. One of my arteries is kind of halfway clogged off, but my body formed a new artery, and they said that can happen naturally. And that cardiologist said there's no reason why you can't get transplanted. So I was green lighted. And then I created a Facebook page called Shane Needs a Kidney Donor. And I came upon Jonathan Traylor on TikTok. And he was putting stuff up there about other people needing kidneys. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I wonder if this guy would help me out. And so I contacted him on TikTok and asked if he could help me out. And he said, yeah. And so then he got me set up with another gentleman, Jeffrey Brown, that he was working with at the time. And both those guys helped me form a Facebook page. And then Jonathan got me in touch with Kidney Solutions with Kent Bressler. And Kent had got me some signs and things that I could do to put around here in town. And then also to spread awareness through his website and through his Facebook page. And so then I started really learning a lot, because then I started watching, your show, and I got to meet you because you guys had a support group that I would come to on Monday nights, and I would hear everybody's stories. And then I would see the Warrior Quest show and Hope with Jonathan and Philip Harris. He's got a show out there that he does, and that's Second Chance. And so then I just got involved where I was watching all these shows of other people that needed a kidney, and it started to inspire me. And then I started seeing some of these people getting transplanted, and then it really inspired me. And the whole time, for me, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance, to even get a kidney. But at the time, my faith was strong. I was like, I know it's going to happen. And then lo and behold, my cousin, just out of the blue, calls me one day because he's been seeing these videos with me and seeing me out there helping other people. And he's like, dude, he goes, with everything you're doing, it's inspired me. I want to donate. And so that's when it came through for him to donate, and he started going through the testing process.
Okay. Your cousin, that's Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy Hauser.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about the help that you got from the National Kidney Registry and Jeremy, and how all this came about, this third transplant.
Sure. So Jeremy went through all the testing, and they said he's a perfect candidate to give. The problem is because my antibodies were so high, he couldn't give to me. And the thing is Jeremy's antibodies were very, very low. So even if there's treatment that they can do for people like myself that have a high antibody to bring them down, but the problem is that they can't guarantee that if it's going to bring you down 10 points or if it's going to bring you down 30 points. So there's no guarantee on that. So what they had talked to Jeremy about was doing a paired exchange or living voucher. And so that got Jeremy thinking about it. Him and I discussed it. And he's a basketball coach and he's very involved. He's got 3 boys. They're all in sports. One of them's got Crohn's. So, he's got a lot of treatments that he goes through. And so we got to talking and said, probably the voucher would be the best because then you can schedule your surgery. You can give a kidney and it gives me, just like Willy Wonka, it gives me that golden ticket. And so that's the way we decided to go. Because on a paired exchange, they've got to find somebody that matches me, and then they got to find somebody that he's going to match that recipient. And you don't know when that's going to happen. It could be 2 months, it could be 6 months, but you just get the call out of the blue and you got to go for surgery. Well, I'm a manager at 3 car dealerships. He works for the federal government for the FDIC. And then he's got his 3 boys that he's a coaching, different programs for them. And so with our schedules, we can't afford to just up and leave our responsibilities. So that's why we said we'll do the living voucher. And he was completely good with that. And that's what he did. And he went in on November 22nd and donated his kidney to somebody. And I'll tell you, he called me that next day and he was so happy because he's like, dude, he goes, I don't know who it is, but all I know is somebody out there has got a brand new life because of me. And he said it's one of the greatest things that he's ever done. And that made me really happy because it's hard to ask somebody to donate, let alone a family member or someone like that. And I never did have to ask anybody to donate to me, using people like Jim and Jonathan Traylor and, people like Philip Harris that are out there and Kent Bressler, those guys ask on my behalf. And it was really good that it worked out that way. And he was able to donate and help somebody else and give me that golden ticket. And the cool thing, and I'll tell you this too, I just found this out Monday at my doctor appointment, but I was matched up with a deceased donor because of that voucher. I did not realize this, but that voucher from my cousin is still good through the National Kidney Registry. So if this kidney fails me in 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, I have a voucher for a living donor through the National Kidney Registry. I cannot get a deceased because it's been used, but I still have the voucher that's good for a living donor through the National Kidney Registry. I didn't know that until they told me Monday. And I was like, oh, wow, that is super cool.
Little extra protection there from the NKR.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice to know something like that.
How much time passed between the time that Jeremy donated and your number came up?
So Jeremy had given on a Monday. That following Sunday, Iowa City called me and said, we have a match. He said he's a 60-year-old man. His creatinine is a 0.9%. He does not, or is a 0.9. He does not have diabetes. His blood pressure is normal. Unfortunately, he had died of cardiac arrest, which was just a freak thing that happened. And because of that, I guess his brain he was brain dead from it. And they were keeping him on life support for organ donation. And so that following Monday, a week to the day that he gave, I got my kidney that morning at 9:30 a.m.
We're talking about November 29th then?
Yes. He gave on November 22nd. I got mine on November 29th.
What hospital?
That was at University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics.
And transplant surgeon?
That was Dr. David Axelrod. He's the one that had done all my previous reconstructive surgeries with the artery and the hematoma and everything inside of me. And in fact, not only was Axelrod in during this transplant, but also Dr. Katz, who's the head of vascular surgery, because they had such an interest in my case from before they both were involved in this surgery.
I saw a picture recently of you with your entire transplant team, staff on Facebook. Can you talk to us about your relationship with your transplant staff?
So yeah, I mean, with Dr. Axelrod, him and I have gotten to know each other very well, and his wife Corrine, she is a executive vice president, I think, for CareDx, but she overlooks the AlloCare application that they have for post-transplant patients to use to track urine output, fluid intake, blood pressure, weight, those types of things that you have to do after transplant. And so we've just got to know each other really well through that. And so when I went to my appointment on Monday with my nonprofit Midwest Kidney Warriors, I had sweaters, or I got hoodies that I sell, And so I bought hoodies for all the nurses and for all the nephrologists and for all the surgeons. And so the picture that you saw was me standing with Dr. Axelrod. Yeah, he's the 6'7" dude, I think. I don't know. I'm 5'5". To me, he's 6'7". But and then next to me, you have my post-transplant coordinator, Amelia. And then you have the nurses that are around, and then you have the nephrologist, and you have Dr. Reed, who is also a transplant surgeon at the University of Iowa. A lot of people that have seen the picture recognize both Dr. Reed and Dr. Axelrod, and they're like, hey, that's who did my surgery. And so I've been collaborating with them, with Midwest Kidney Warriors, to start advocating for patients at the University of Iowa Hospital. And they're also wanting to start a mentorship program for post-transplant patients. And so I told them I'd volunteer to help them put that program together as well. So they've been a good team, good people to work with, and I've really enjoyed getting to know them and to work with them on everything.
Oh, atta baby. That's what I like to hear. All right. Talk to us a little bit about how you've been doing since the time of that third transplant. How's your kidney health? How do you feel?
My creatinine has been great. It's been running a 1.3 to about a 1.7. The tacrolimus, and this is the other thing what the doctors like about me. When they start going through my lab reports, I already know them. And they say, oh, your tacrolimus is, let me look here, and I'll tell them what it is. And then that's because I pay attention to everything. I mean, I look at potassium, phosphorus, glucose, sodium. I look at all of that stuff because I care. And but anyways, my creatinine has been running 1.4. Well, it was 1.3 on Monday. Today it was, Thursday it was 1.47. But it runs anywhere from 1.3 to 1.7, so which is good. And my EGFR has been anywhere from 55 to 65. I would love for it to get over that 60, so I can say I'm stage 2. So I'm hoping that that it keeps trending that way. Since I've started working out, I've noticed that my creatinine has been improving. So is my EGFR. I just was able to start working out February 1st, and so I put a little bit of prednisone weight on here with the moon face, and so hopefully I get all that knocked off. I'm up to 185 pounds from 120, so I want to get back down to 175.
Okay. Are there any challenges, goals that you have with your kidney health?
Yeah, my biggest goal is this summer I want to get run some 5Ks for fundraisers for. Not only the National Kidney Foundation does a kidney walk, I plan to run the 5K for that. But there's a lot of different organizations that have 5K runs to help raise money for things. And so Jeremy, who is my second donor, he's a marathon runner. He can do a 5K like it's nothing. And then Brad, who was my other kidney donor, he does do a lot of 5Ks. And so we want to put a team together with the three of us and travel around Iowa and run 5Ks during the summer. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to the Y. I'm only going 3 days a week right now because I'm not trying to get crazy, but I'm working myself up. I can go 2 miles, I can walk it, but once I start running, I start feeling it in my stomach where that kidney is. So I don't push it right now, but eventually I hope in 4 or 5 months I can start running 5Ks and doing that with those two guys. That's my big goal. And my other goal is to get helping out with Kidney Solutions, doing mentorship. And then I just recently was asked to be on the board for the National Kidney Foundation in Iowa. So, and then my car dealership, we just agreed to do a drive for the National Kidney Foundation. So we're investing $2,500 to the National Kidney Foundation to do this drive where we put bags together for dialysis patients. And it goes to 100 dialysis patients. And we're going to do the ones in Ottumwa, Pella, Iowa, and Newton to give these supplies to dialysis patients through the National Kidney Foundation. So that's something I'm excited about. And then to get more involved with AAKP for legislation, and then with the ESRD networks, I'm on the advisory council for that to be a patient voice for patient care in dialysis centers. And so I want to get more involved in that too. So I got a few things going on. I'm not going to get involved in anything else because I don't want to get spread thin. I want to be able to be effective in the things that I'm doing. So, but I'm able to do a lot and help a lot of people, and I think that's what God's called me to.
Okay. Talk to us about the type of things that you're doing now that you're a little more knowledgeable to take care of the new kidney.
Yeah. So eating, first off, staying away from meats, eating more of that plant-based. I eat a lot more vegetables and a lot more fruits than I used to do. I don't eat the fast food. I mean, I'm a McDonald's freak. When it's McRib season, man, I'm telling you, I used to eat a McRib, 2 McRibs at a time every single day. I love McDonald's McRibs. Now I'll just go and I'll have one only, and then that's it. I'll get my fix done. But I make a lot better choices. I don't eat. I used to eat until I was full, until I was stuffed. I don't. I eat till I'm satisfied. And once I start feeling full, that's when I stop, because I don't want to get beyond that point. But I make better decisions, and I do better portion sizes, and I don't eat the bad snacks all throughout the day like I used to do. And so it just comes down to being more responsible with your choices. And I get hungry for a snack. I might go get some carrots and some ranch dip, or broccoli and some dip, or I might do a yogurt or something like that, or I might strawberries, blueberries, and whipped cream is something else that I've kind of started to enjoy. So things like that, to get better life out of this kidney, and to live a more healthy lifestyle, and to make sure that I'm getting more active. My goal is eventually to get to where I can do 30 minutes of cardio a day. And if I'm at work, typically my work hours can be long. They could be 8:30 to 7. Well, I'll get my 30 minutes and I'll leave my office. I'll go walk around the lot for 15 minutes, and then I'll make sure I get and walk around the lot again for 15 minutes. Just do something to keep myself active and to keep that heart rate up, and to get that fluid too. That's important, to drink a lot of fluid to keep that kidney flush. So those things like that I didn't know a lot about before, and I do now. So.
Okay. You talked to us a little bit about your kidney advocacy and your groups. Talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing on social media.
So I've got Kidney Warriors, and first, what that's about is just kidney advocacy and education. So what I do there is, of course, we have a Facebook group, which I have you as an admin on, and I appreciate. But that's more about just getting the word out about people that need a kidney transplant and education. So, which you do a great job of putting inspiring stories up on there about people that's gotten transplants, or people that are looking for transplants. I do the same thing. I like putting stuff on there, that's patient education. Like I did one today about Valentine's treats, that are healthy to eat while you're on dialysis, and you can make them yourself. So I like to put motivational things on there too. And then the other part of Midwest Kidney Warriors, which is what the public doesn't see, is I have 3 dialysis clinics that I go to once a month, and they do patient education. This last one was about hospitalizations, and I'll sit down and I go one by one to each chair and sit down with each patient for 15 to 20 minutes and just talk to them and have a conversation with them about whatever the subject matter is. And then sometimes they'll confide in me or ask me questions about things that I went through. I don't provide any medical advice. That's not my problem. That's not my position. But I do talk to them about my experiences. If there is something they have a specific question about, I'll grab the dietitian, or I'll grab the social worker, or I'll grab the doctor and have them come over and join us and answer those questions for them. But I've really gotten to know these patients, and I should call them warriors, because most of them, the majority of the people in these dialysis facilities, are not going to be able to get transplanted, and a lot of them are over the age of 70, and can't get transplanted. So this is their lifeline until they're called to Christ. And so, but if I can be there to show them how to get more time on this earth, and how to enjoy life while on dialysis, that's what I'm going to do. And then the other part of Midwest Kidney Warriors is I'm starting a broadcast called Focus on the Warrior, which I have a Facebook page, and it's going to be the same thing that Jim does here, is just helping patients get their voice out about their need for transplant. So I plan on using that platform to interview kidney warriors, so they can share their stories with family and friends, and those family and friends can share those stories through social media. And I also plan to have transplanted patients on, so they can share what their life's like now. That helps to give people that are in kidney failure inspiration, and to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's kind of what Midwest Kidney Warriors is all about right now.
Okay. You mentioned the broadcast. You're also bringing a few celebrities on too, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got George Lopez scheduled for March, and then I had another celebrity that was coming on, but unfortunately that's not going to work out. But I'm working on Sarah Hyland and Mira Sorvino right now. So Sarah Hyland, she was on Modern Family. She's had 2 kidney transplants. And then Mira Sorvino, of course, you may know her from that 70s show. Ashton Kutcher is actually from here in Iowa. I know his brother, who had a heart transplant also, by the way. And so trying to get with them and hopefully I can get his brother on the show, and then also followed up with Mira Servino as well. So, but I do got George Lopez locked down, so that'll be good to bring some, maybe some viewers and stuff like that to the show. And we're going to talk about his foundation and stuff too. So that'll be really good.
Okay. Talk to us. What's next for Shane Blanchard? You're doing so many things with the kidney community.
What's next for me is just stay the course and, keep moving forward and stay in my lane. I got to take care of my kidney first, which I make sure that I do that. Like when I do my shows, I'm only going to do those every other week. And with these organizations, the meetings are, luckily when I'm able to do them at work. But first and foremost is just to take care of myself first, make sure that this kidney stays at perfect health. I don't look at this kidney as my kidney. It's not my kidney. This is some other person's kidney that gave it to me. And it's my responsibility to take care of it for as long as I possibly can. And that is my main goal, is to take care of this kidney as long as I possibly can. And then second to that is helping other people out there that are needing a transplant, and also helping those that aren't able to get a transplant live a longer life while on dialysis.
I notice you have a hat in the background. Who do you like tomorrow in the Super Bowl?
It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I have been a Bengals fan since I was in 5th grade or 4th grade, since Ickey Woods. Let's put it that way. The Ickey Shuffle. That's when I started liking the Cincinnati Bengals. So that is who I love. And they have not. The last time they've been to a Super Bowl was when I was a senior in high school in 1993 against San Francisco 49ers. So it's been 33 years since they've been in the Super Bowl. So I'm excited to go. I'm not going. I mean, I'm excited to watch it. I would go, but I didn't, like most Bengals fans, we didn't save up over these last 30 years, so we can't afford it. So that's my hope.
Was it something I said?
Off on my phone because it's med time.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll get you off so you can take your meds.
As long as I give myself a 10-minute window.
All right. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss today that before we conclude? Is there things I forgot to ask you about, or things you just want to say to the audience?
Biggest thing is if there's anyone out there listening to this or watching this, seriously consider donation. And not only checking that box on your driver's license, but being a living kidney donor. There are so many people out there that are in need of that. And I look at it like this: God gave us 2 kidneys. We only need one. And these hospitals will not put you on that operating table if they think there is any risk whatsoever you're going to get off of it differently than when you got on. So it's very, very safe procedure, and it's very safe to donate. So please consider donation to somebody out there that you may see on this broadcast, or somebody in your town that you've heard of that needs something, because it can go a long way to make a big difference and to give somebody a great life.
Now, I tell you, Shane, listening to you gets me all fired up. They're just real happy to be a kidney advocate tonight with my good buddy, Shane.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Let me give the folks a little preview what's going on. Colin Clifford on the 18th of February. He's from Ireland. He's had 3 kidney transplants too, Shane. And we're going to talk to him about his experiences in Ireland, the differences between kidney rules there and kidney rules here. He also works for a company that makes tacrolimus. So I'm going to talk a little bit about his work.
Oh, that'll be.
Our good friends, Ben and Jasper, they're a couple of artists. And by artists, I mean they're guys that actually paint, like art that hangs in museums, stuff like that. They're going to be on the 19th. So I'm doing a back-to-back, a Friday and a Saturday. Ben and Jasper, they had a donation between the 2 of them for a kidney. Twice it got called off. And one guy lives in Germany, one guy lives in Vienna. If you can imagine being in a hospital where you don't speak the language and they're trying to tell you to go home, not once, but twice while you're getting transplanted. And then my good friend Tom Offner, we're going to talk to on the 25th about his kidney story and some of the advocacy work that he's involved in. So, watch this space because we have interesting things going on. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Shane. We will talk very soon.
Appreciate you, Jim. God bless you, man.
God bless you, my friend. Yeah.
That was good timing, right?
All right, buddy. I'm going to let you go. You have a good night. We'll talk to everybody soon.
All right.
You take care. Watch this space. Bye-bye.